Good morning. Today is the 20th of November 2023 and I'm going to go through my trading plan for today. On my screen is the MES. In fact, let's go to trading view and let's see what economic news we've got today. So today nothing of high importance and just all very low market moving news, so nothing really to worry about. So let's go back to MES. So this is the hourly MES or the ES. I've just seen an error pop up. If this stream's okay, let me know. Just if it's not, just leave a comment below. It says apparently the audio strength is not great. So if you're having problems with audio, I apologise. But it all looks like it's okay at my end. Okay, it's just popped up, says excellent connection, so I imagine we're okay. Okay, so as there's no major news today, the levels will be valid straight from now. So on my chart it's a daily MES, and we're looking at all-time highs. Hang on, is that all-time highs? No, it's not. All-time highs over here. So that's the all-time highs from 2022, and this is 2023 highs, the year highs. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and we're looking pretty much like we want to head up towards year highs. And we've got this area to contend with, first September highs, and that's one of my watches for today. 45.64 as a rejection. However, we do have a little bit of unfinished business here, so we may want to come back to this. Is the daily trend line. You can see it's linking all-time highs with the September highs. With July's highs this year. So potentially we may want to get up there, but we're still in a daily downtrend until we break this pivot, and that pivot is at 45.64. Volume wise, we've seen a low since we got down to the bottom where we saw a big increase in volume here. Volume has kind of been lowering ever since. I'm not sure. It's open to interpretation. I look at the moving average we've got there, which is a declining moving average. It's open to interpretation because even though volume's declining, price is increasing. And if you were to analyse that with volume price analysis, then that's a typical pullback volume where it declines when price is increasing. But look, we're getting stronger and stronger candles. Bit of a rest there, we had a little rest there, big push up again, and then we've had this consolidation where we're resting again, and maybe we're just resting before we make the next push back up potentially. So based on that theory, I'm using the tops and bottoms of this consolidation, which you can see the white lines there, my alerts, as an area of decision. So if we break above this area, I'll be looking to try and get a trend continuation for long, knowing that we've got a potential reject point here, and we've got a reject point both on that trend line and up at 46.30 area. So if we break down below this consolidation, so if we break down below, then I'll be looking for a bounce at 44.40, but I'll be really looking for a short position just to fill this gap. So we've got this gap down. Another thing I heard someone talking about today, and that's not a bad idea to be wary of. Let's go to the daily. It's easy to see on SPY. Is even though we've got this area here, I'm doing it on SPY because you can see the gaps here. So we've got this area here as a potential reject. There's a gap immediately above it, and they were saying they don't like to short into a gap which could potentially fill the gap. So that's a big void above. So that's something to bear in mind as well. So if we grind up to that area, so let's go back to MES because that's what I'm focused on. If we're grinding back up into this area, then potentially we could be looking at that SPY or SPX gap fill. So bear that in mind, and it would coincide with this trend line as well. So there's a few things to keep an eye on. So I want to play the chart. I don't want to play what everyone else is talking about, but the technical analysis only. And I still see a decline in volume. I still want to be very cautious, but at the moment, last thing to look at as well is the RSI and the weekly. The weekly RSI, it's not like where we were back here in July when we made that second trend line rejection. We're still just barely over the 0 mark on the RSI, and which may mean that we may have a bit of a position to go. Maybe are we thinking all-time highs by the end of the year? Who knows? So it's a tough one. We're right in the middle. I don't like to go long. I don't want to go short with any swings because it's just no signals indicating either at the moment, in my opinion. Back to hourly. So my levels for today are as follows. I'm going to be watching for a 45.60, 45.64 rejection area around in this area of supply. I'm going to be looking for a break and retest of the pre-market high to continue this trend, in theory this trend up, even though we're consolidating. But I really want to be watching 45.41 for a potential break long or a very high risk rejection, so that area there. And the same if we get back down to this area. I might fine tune this a bit. 45.01, look at that, 45.01 to 45.04, that area as a potential bounce area. But again, if we're seeing particularly weakness when we get below here, I'll be looking to try and get some sort of continuation trend down. And we've got the 200 moving average, but we've got this area which is a daily area, 44.30, 44.20, 28.30 area. So that's kind of what I'm watching for. It's a tough one at the moment. There's only a couple of bounces I really want to do. That bounces will be higher probability, that's with the trend. Rejections will be against the trend. But looking at the daily, remember that we are very far away from the 200 here, the 50, the 20 and the 8 moving average. And we haven't had a healthy pullback. Even here wasn't really a healthy pullback. You know, a healthy pullback would been back down to the 200 to continue the trend up. So we're quite extended, and we still have this pivot to break. So this is our unfinished business area, 45.64, which is why I quite like that for rejection. And I think that's it really. There's nothing really to watch other than those areas. So basically waiting for it to break out of this area of consolidation, whether it's above or below. Okay, SPY, very similar. We just talked about that gap as well. If we're going to look to reject this daily pivot, and we're rejecting into that gap, and potentially we might be looking at a gap fill. So that's an area to watch out for. So again, I might be more inclined with a continuation trade, a break, a retest, long to fill that gap, and then look for the rejection up here in this area of supply. And you can see we're coming into all-time highs there as well. I mean, sorry, yearly highs. Significant pivot back in March 22 and a pivot in July 23, so a year apart almost. But that's our rejection area we could be watching for. Qs, we've got open the daily. Didn't quite, oh, we got very close to it. Didn't quite close above year high, so that's unfinished business. So potentially we may see it come back up to close for year highs. Where are we looking on the all-time? We're not far off all-time highs as well. Can it move 88? Can it move $20 in the next 6 weeks? Has it moved $20 in the last 6 weeks? 41 to 88 as, yeah, so that's won $40. So potentially we could see this all-time high area in the long term or the next few weeks. Just trying to find a good reject if we break over. So obviously still watching this area's consolidation, same as SPY and ES we talked about. Either we're going to break above it and then we've got this bit of a gap to fill, or we're going to break down below and we've got this gap to fill. So there's a few gaps to fill either side, so that's why I'm watching either side of that. If we were to break over this area, then we could have a rejection area around there. Oh, look at that, 400 on the dot. So 400 is a rejection area on Qs, and obviously you've got 405 and all-time highs. Yearly high, isn't that all-time? Yeah, sorry, all-time highs I meant. So that's the daily levels. Let's look at the hourly, see where we are. So on the hourly scale on Qs, I quite like a rejection here. Is that 390 to 389.50, that area there. So if we can come into that area, potentially a rejection, double top. RSI on the hourly is around the 0 mark. In fact, this is a different RSI scale. I need to change that. It's a different. It's basically RSI, but it's in the 0 area. A bounce. If we get down into 377 to 380 area, this is a bounce area really, and obviously a higher risk break below that consolidation, and a higher probability break and retest above consolidation. So they're the areas I quite like. Qs, Nasdaq. Did Nasdaq? No, Nasdaq same as Q wasn't able to close above the year highs. And what's the volume like? Below average volume still, nothing exciting for that top and tail candle here. So we've got this candlestick. Still higher volume than the previous candle, and that's a bigger, wider range candle. So potential weakness is shown in that candle. And we've got these indecision candles here with reducing volume as well. Again, where can we see this go? A bit like Qs, if we can put in a double top and tail candle, so if we get another candle which looks like that, then maybe we could see it come down, come back, and then maybe that could be the rejection we're looking for. Still on the weekly, yeah, still unable to break the weekly pivot, as we know. And so, but we're looking at this cup and handle pattern on the weekly. So this is a cup, this is a handle, and that's the breakout. So it's formed that. I think that's a similar on ES as well. Yeah, if we get over that pivot, then we're watching all-time highs. We're not far off of that, probably about 3-4%, I imagine. We're pretty close to where we are. So rejection wise, a higher risk rejection at 16,050, and then we're looking up here for a 16,767. Let's put that area in there. That's the best area. And what I'm looking for is where we've got multiple touches, so either the bases of bottoms and tops of candles, or the opening and closing areas of candles. So 16,344 as a rejection area to watch for on the daily. So moving into hourly, quite far from there. So again, if we can break over this consolidation area, then we can look for a break and retest long to fill this gap, and then look for the rejection up there. And the same, if we get below this consolidation area, we've got a bit of a gap to fill as well, and we've got the 200 rise and 200 for a potential reject area, and that would be in the daily reject zone as well. Okay, oil, how many time? 15 minutes for the open. Oil's in this lovely 4-hour downtrend. Look on the daily first. I was coming right into an area we've been watching. So it's potential short right now. That's the hourly. I'm sure we can now go down a few time frames and find a rejection. So notice how we're coming into this 200 moving average. It is a reversing rise in 200 moving average now. But it's an area high volume. You can see that with this volume profile as well. If we can break below that candle, what is that? That is $76. And maybe we could continue this trend back down to possibly target in this area. Whether we're exhausted, we've got 1, 2, we've had 3 pullbacks already. This is the 4th, so potentially we may be getting near to the end of a trend. Or we could be just looking at a potential head and shoulders pattern here as well. So just keep an eye on that. We see the left shoulder, the head. We don't know if we've got a head and shoulders pattern until we see the right shoulder formed, or it could just continue down. So just keep an eye on oil. Let's look at the hourly. Here we go. It said it's coming up to a rejection area. It's rejected it. That little head and shoulders pattern there is a great one. Big volume there, potentially ending volume. Reduced volume on this pullback as well. So go back to the daily. How's that look? So increasing volume and sell-off. Yeah, it's hard. We need a couple more candles to see what the daily's doing. But we are seeing a bit of a reduction in volume over here, which is these candles here. So if I were to look for levels today on oil, pretty much where it is right now. That's the reject point, 77.98. There's no sign, there's no reversal candles yet, unless it's this V-shaped one. But potentially looking for it to pull back down. Here we go. We've got the right shoulder forming there. Head. Could that be sorry, left shoulder? Could that be the right shoulder here? It's a small one if it is, but we want to see a more defined one like that. And we could be seeing an inverse head and shoulders forming, or we could be just seeing a larger head and shoulders pattern starting to form. So a few scenarios. But we are above all the moving averages right now, so be a bit wary. Maybe if it pulls back, we can look for a long. But the trend is a downtrend right now, and we've got a downward trailing 200. So if we were to break out over this area, the next area to reject would be not that one. I'm just trying to clone one of these lines. Would be about there. 80.88. We know that we've had that number a few times as well. 80.88. I've recognised. So potentially we've got a reject double top here at 80 or 80.88, where we've got this area of consolidation. Okay, oil I'll keep an eye on, because at the moment the only reject is this reject. So if we were a safe play, the next break, this is the hourly chart, so if we break that candle on the next candle, then that could be our swing trade for this. And gold, so head and shoulders pattern, neckline, come into the neckline and rejected it. Nice rejection candle there. Not much volume on it though. That's the entry, 1970. I think we talked about that on maybe on beginning mid last week. Let's look at the hourly. Yeah, it's come into that area of high volume and rejected it. When was that? That was on Friday. So that was pre-market. And it's looking weak, so it's putting in a downtrend. So if it pulls back up into this area, 1978, it might be worth a potential short. We've got tops of candles, bottoms of candles, tops of candles, bottoms of candles, area of consolidation or confluence. Although it is lower volume on here though, so it may not have much weighting as if it came up to this area where the volume point of control is 1988. So anywhere between here for potential reject we could watch for. And this is kind of a bounce area as well. So let's just draw a line in. So it's at the bounce area right now as well. So So if on an intraday timescale, if we were to come back down into this 200, we've got the bottoms of candles here as well, and a bit of a area of confluence. We could see a bounce at that point. Let's just mark that off as well. That area there. So 1965.20 for a bounce. High risk bounce where we are right now, and then a rejection at 1978, and that's probably the best I can see on gold right now. Okay, so that's it really. Let me just go over MES, see if there's anything, if it's moved in the last few minutes. Look on the 5 for a second. Nope, barely budged. So just to recap the levels for MES or ES. I'm watching this area consolidation. What I want to see is it either break out and above, that's a higher probability play, or it breaks down into this gap, and that's against the trend, but I want to try and, if we do break this area and see it's selling off, I want to be part of this move down. So I'll be looking for continuation or the breakdown below that area. Got my alerts in place, these white lines, so I'll keep an eye on that. And don't forget what I said about on SPY, which you can see, if we're going to reject that area, especially this area on MES, which is that pivot there at 45.60, we've got a gap which you can see easy on the SPY just above. So if we're rejecting that pivot there, bear in mind we're rejecting into the start of this gap, so we may be a tough trade. So we'll be rejecting up here, and we've got this gap fill, so potentially the better area will be up at 457 reject, and that's the same with MES, because that'll be the same as SPX as well. So if we're looking to reject this, we've got a bit of a void. You can't see it on it because this is all the pre-market, but we've got a bit of a void to 59, 45, 90, 4600 area, so bear that in mind. And don't forget the trend is still your friend until it finally breaks, and we haven't broken it yet. Tried once here, didn't hold, and we're still in this uptrend. So I'm going to try and stick with trend entries today, so break and retest long, or bounce down at this area. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you either in my trade recap video tonight or in the trade room.